Today's episode is sponsored by Dancesoft Gamers. Dancesoft Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.dancesoftgamers.co. That is www.dancesoftgamers.co. So, umutawanya omuza kusomero.
Alina okuddayo okusoma.
Yeah. Mujebale, Mujebale, Mujebale. My name is Bane Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show. Moses Dipak, welcome to my podcast, brother.
Thank you so much.
So, the way I connected to you is through Nyaika. I had Nyaika on the podcast here a while back, and he's a great guy, and it was cool to sit down with him and just share a word or two with what he does. And somehow in our conversation, your name popped up. And the way it popped up, I think I messaged you about it. He said this line, and I remember cutting it out and posting on my Instagram and tagging you in. He said, I know a guy who has over 1,000 pictures that he has never posted because he doesn't have captions for them.
Oh my God. He
Yeah,
did so much that on me that day. That wasn't fair.
yeah.
So I met Edwin I don't remember the year, but there was an event we were hosting under KQ Hub Africa.
Okay.
It was the first time they released Black Panther, the first Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So the startup we're running, KQ Hub Africa, we threw our Kanda party, one of a kind in Uganda. So I met Edwin with his cousin. They were taking pictures with us. So we met. Of course, he's a crazy person. Of course,
Yes.
yeah. That's where we first met. But then we reconnected later around 2020,
Mhm.
early 2020, when we joined the same workplace. Though I had joined in as a consultant first, then for him he had come in as a full-time personnel.
Okay.
So we connected fully as workmates, then we continued to grow to be friends.
That's awesome, man. And I've followed you guys, your work on Instagram for a while, and I gotta appreciate you give credit where credit is due. And hats off you guys for the talent you got in your hands and in your brains and everything you do. Um, yeah, your pictures are really amazing, and I wanted to sit down with you. I'm like, and I know you messaged me, and you're like, why did you pick me? Why did you want me to interview me? But the
Yeah,
way,
like it was a big question for me.
yeah.
Like why? I
You
need
know,
to know why.
yeah, you know the reason why, and I've recorded with a few photographers in Uganda. Um, the reason is I had passion for photography when I was younger, um,
Mm,
and I really wanted to do photography. I never thought of doing photography for like people, like
mm,
portrait photography. I was more into nature photography. Um, I never got to do it professional, and I never got um, to take my talents. Anyway, I still have my Instagram page of my photography, but it's more of
mm,
like nature. And now that I work with airplanes, I see these cool
mm,
airplanes coming into our work, and I take really cool pictures. Like if I see it and like this, it's a cool private jet, I'll take a picture of it and just post it on my page.
mm,
I don't really do a lot of editing and any professional work. It's just a site. I just send it and just take a picture, just
mm,
do a little filter thing and just put it there. But the reason why I get to want to host you guys and interview you guys is just to see your journey and see how you took this talent to another level of like being a
mm,
professional and how you've gone through that. I never got to get there, but when I sit down with you guys and just hear from what you've gone through, maybe makes me
mm.
feel good and like kudos to you guys that you took it on the next level.
Ah, thank you
How
so
did you get
much.
into photography?
So photography, it's kind of a long journey, but the interest started way back when I was in secondary school. Uh, I was always curious why and how. these images get to be like, how you freeze time.
Hmm.
We didn't have much knowledge. I wasn't good in physics to know such things. But we had this camera. By then, we call them cameramen that
Hmm.
would come to school, take our pictures, print, come and sell them to us. It was interesting to see his art, how he would do that, and then make memories, for our time in school, the small events we had. So I decided to go to university and study media. Went to Livingston International University, did media science in media technology.
Where
But
is
then
Living
I
University?
personally, it's located in Mbale. That's the eastern side of Uganda.
Okay.
But it's a branch. It's the only branch from the states that is in Africa.
Okay.
So, so I personally decided to major into photography so that I can be able to harness the art of freezing time. And if you can check on my Instagram, there's about freezing time and all that, because
Hmm.
I mean it's a superpower that most of us own.
Yeah, for real.
And of course, telling stories with just one image, giving people memories, and documenting everyday life that just happens in our in our
Daily life.
presence on a daily, and we don't have to document it. We just don't pay attention to it. So I
Mhm.
mean, we need to document it with the art we own.
Right.
So basically that's how I joined photography.
So you touched on like cameraman, and that's a cool story that I even share here in the States nowadays. Like, so I got when I was like 8 years old, somebody sent me a plastic toy camera, in those shoebox gifts that they send through churches. But they send them actually from
Mm,
America. They send them to, like, I was in Uganda. Somebody sent that to me. But the when I got that when I was little, maybe that's why I got into a little bit of photography, because when the cameraman
mm.
was coming to your house, they'll tell you, "Hey, Bonnie, go take shower and wear nice clothes." Cameraman would just wipe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
photos. And that's a memory that stuck to me, and it's cool that you've mentioned that. And even in high school, I was the guy that
Yeah.
took cameras in school to take like a job. Like I would go to school with my camera, take pictures of my friends, then go
Mm.
out, or someone pass out, then you go out and then print them, come back the next weekend, and then sell them at school. I did that for a while too, but it was just
Now talking about that, that's what I did on a senior six, what we call senior six prom, those end of year party things. Because I didn't fancy like dressing up and being in the limelight. I decided to hire a camera from that same cameraman in my O level.
yeah.
I talked to him and I asked him if he could hire me his camera, then we can see how to split, you know. So he gave me just a few basics. This is how they switch on, this is how they change the battery, the
Hmm.
rest you'll figure out.
Yeah.
But I asked him if I could get a point and shoot where I don't have to hustle so much. I used the point and shoot, made crazy money, and it was interesting that
Yeah.
I was rich.
It's crazy how much money you would make from just printing those pictures. Like, it was crazy amount.
Yeah, yeah, like a lot of money.
Yeah. So I have more of like photography kind of questions that I'm gonna ask you, and through what you
Yeah,
respond, we will build onto that for the conversation.
mm,
But like, what's the
yeah,
one thing
sure.
you wish you knew before you got into photography?
Oh my God. How to handle myself in the corporate world,
Yeah.
how to speak the corporate language, because the corporate language has more money as compared to the freelance,
Mhm.
whereby you're looking for hand to mouth kind of payments. You just get a few shillings, and then you're so excited because you're making it just in a few minutes. But then when it comes to the corporate language, you're looking at pricing yourself well, making quotations that are worth your talent,
Right.
you know. But we have to learn that the hard way on our end, and Yeah, so that is one thing I think I would want to learn if I had to go back.
The other question I wanted to ask you, what was that
Uh,
point when you switched from just doing regular photography? I mean, you mentioned about doing photography and selling them at high school, but when you took the next step to do professional photography, what was the time when you did that step from just taking regular photos to doing it as a profession?
as a so I don't have like a defined timeline for that,
Hmm.
because when I was at campus, I used to work with most of the people that would come from the international university, the American branch,
Yeah.
would come to tell stories in Africa about the branch they have. And I used to tag along, and I I learned more from these guys, and it's it's at it's at that point that I was able to even be confident to comment on someone's page,
Mhm.
and say that this is a nice picture. I like the lighting, like talking the professional bit even before you study it.
Right.
So I remember like how I switched into like, because I first did events. That was through Maltways Photography. And I commented on their picture. It was a Sunday morning. I commented on the picture, and next thing is I'm hired to come and tag along
Wow. Yeah.
when they're having photo shoots, corporate events, weddings, all those ceremonial events. And I want to be honest with you. Maltese photography is like my baseline of, where I did most of the foundational work in my camera work,
Mhm.
because I was exposed to so many events in the weekend. So I would leave school, come to Kampala on Friday evening, then Saturday you're working Saturday and Sunday, then you're back in Mbale, back for classes on Monday.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think, to answer your question, for me it was, there's no defined time, because I used to explore more, like, you risk to learn.
Hmm.
I risked, you go make a bad picture, even go and travel with these guys and forget even to carry a memory card,
Yeah.
because you are not well versed with these things. You just carry the camera and move. You
Yeah.
expect things to be done, but that
Mhm.
was wrong, of course.
Yeah.
So to me it's a jumble of dates in
Mm.
and out, but mostly it's my second semester in my first year, and that's 2013.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2013.
So if and I'm gonna jump around with my questions too as they pop up in
No,
my
no
head.
worries,
But
no
like,
worries.
if you were not a photographer, of if you were not a photographer, what other job would you do? Like, what would you be doing?
Allow me answer that in two ways.
Okay.
uh I would, number one, I've always loved hacking, IT,
Hmm.
that kind of field whereby like you're in control of things. You're able to make things move by your standards. You're in control of everything. So that would be the first one. In the field of arts, I think, yeah, in the field of arts, where we're laid back, doing things at your own pace. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things I would do. But then for things whereby, I always tell my friends that if it wasn't for the profession I do, I wouldn't be owning a smartphone, because I don't. That the tech is too much. Like
Mhm.
having a smartphone 24/7 on you. You have to have data. You have to have this. I think if I wasn't in that kind of profession that requires you to be on the move and be spontaneous on how you respond to things and all those things, I think I would want to do accounting.
Okay.
I, yeah, accounting, and just like be laid back in there, even if you hold these but traditional phones there, old school phones with no internet and what. I think that's what I would go for. But that is because of the fear of being ruled by technology.
Yeah. Is that the reason why you turned off your Instagram notifications?
Yes, and WhatsApp, everything. Like, no, the only notifications I have are for emails.
Yeah. Actually, I turned off my
Uh,
notification on Instagram too, but I check it pretty often that I don't. I don't really miss them that much because I use Instagram a lot. So, but I don't have notifications on there. But,
Yeah, so that's basically why. Like, I don't want to be a slave to some things like
mhm,
my
that's
phone.
true.
It's
We get addicted to technology and our phones, and
true, true.
it rules
Yeah.
our life, and you say that, but sometimes I try to get out of that, but then I'm like, bro, like, you have a podcast, you have to promote it, you have to do this, you have to do that, so there's no way. Even
Yeah,
when you
true.
try to get out of it, like my family is back in Uganda, communicating with
Mm,
them on WhatsApp, you delete WhatsApp for 2 days, I'm like, I'm going on this, and
mm,
your mom is sick, your daddy needs this, it's
true,
terrible
true.
situation. But the reason why I asked you another profession if you were not doing photography is because you have a picture on your Instagram where you are tailing like a tailor, like someone. So I wanted to ask you about that. Like, were you just posing for a picture, or are you really like good at tailoring?
I have no idea how they assemble that machine. I want to be honest with you. We were doing a project in BD, I think. It's a refugee settlement. And this lady was like, that was her livelihood. That's how she makes a living.
Hmm.
And I said, can I like just sit and just feel, be in your shoes?
Yeah,
Because when you're documenting these things, it's better to be in someone's shoes and be able to express the feelings in your videos, in your pictures, so that you're not just doing this for the money, you're doing it for telling the right stories, evoking the right emotions. So I sat there, and if I remember well, I think it's Alan Busby is the one who took that picture.
okay.
But of course, we like saying that we make every profession be alike with us, because
Right.
now you're saying I look like I can operate the machine as a
I
professional. But the love of fashion also could make me want to learn that. But fashion is way behind for me to think about, for to join and learn, because it's complex.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how to operate the machine. I just sat there to feel being in this lady's shoes that we're documenting.
And this is like a life lesson for me. Like I tell my listeners all the time that it's always good to ask questions. You can see something
Mm.
on a picture, like I saw your picture on Instagram. Cutting in my brain, I'm like, on a mutunzi, that's a side gig, like Arabika Tunga, na fun, like he makes some money on the side. So like if you don't
Uh,
go and ask the person, you create your own narrative in the head and
yeah,
you
true.
make a different perspective. So it's always good to ask these questions. And that's why
Yeah,
ask a question,
yeah,
because if I didn't ask you, I would go and tell my friends, "Hey, I interviewed this guy, baby." No, like if I didn't interview you to ask you this
yeah,
question,
yeah, yeah.
I said, "Oh,
Mm.
there's this guy in Uganda, baby, fana nyata tunga," and then I like, "Manyinge mbozi yaba border border, she's like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I
that."
totally understand.
Yeah. But there's also another picture.
Mm,
And the caption on this picture was, "Often a silent face has a voice and words." There was a little kid. I don't know if you can. Let me see. Was that picture?
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
That
I
picture.
remember.
I looked at it, and first of all, it reminds me of my childhood. First of all, it reminds me of all the kids back in Uganda, and it reminds me
Mm,
of a lot of things. And then the caption to it
mm.
makes my head think a lot about those words that you use there. And that goes back to when Nyaika said you don't post pictures because of caption, because you take your time to create a caption.
Yes, like
Uh-huh.
I, now let me tell you something. I have over like 12 terabytes
Hmm.
of pictures, like personal pictures. Like that's a whole lot of work. If I'm to post on a daily, I would crash Instagram, I think. Like with not saying like overload it, but with very nice work.
Hmm.
You get. But my problem is I want the words behind the image to resonate with me, with the picture and uh, the person reading the caption who is associating with my work.
Right.
So to target three things in one caption is hard. you
Mm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not such of a good writer, you
All
know.
right.
I'll occasionally ask my friends, what do you think about this picture? So the few words they put together, I will write and, come up with something. Or, of course, quotes came to help us. Or thank God to Pinterest
Exactly.
and Google, you know.
Or be like Nyeka, who gets them from lyrics of songs.
No, no, no. Now there I will have a problem because the type of music I think that I listen to will not give me captions.
Yeah.
And the music will not be able to get what I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
because, man, music is, I see there's too much love, too much teachings of, life stories, but there are different things I would want to talk about, and music is not there
Yeah.
to yes, it can, but I will have to search a lot as compared to if I could, you know read about people, things like that. So that's why it's hard for me to like have captions on a daily, because I select over 7 pictures to post in a week, but that week will pass, the other week will pass, and I've not even posted anything. Because, yes, even, man, the mood of posting has to be there. Like, you need to be in the zone. You need to be like, you need to feel what you're posting.
Yeah. In the vibe.
Yeah.
So that picture.
Mm.
Well, what does that speak? I know you've talked a little bit more of why, but like when you see that picture, like often a silent face has a voice and words. Like to me, that things like somebody when you see somebody quiet, like even if they're quiet and silent, like there is voice in their head or there's words that's going
Yes.
on even in the silent. Is that the same thing that
Yeah.
comes to you in that?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, to me, most times we get to like conclude people's emotions by just looking at them,
Hmm.
but not until you listen to their inner voice, whatever their mind is racing at, whatever their feelings are at. That's when you get to know who they are, and do not judge them from their silence.
Right.
Because, man, there is a lot that happens, because you might be in a crowd that you don't resonate with.
Hmm.
You might be going through a moment that you don't have the right people to share with, you
Yeah.
know and then and then someone in the crowd starts judging you, making conclusions, but not until you sit down and ask the right question of, how are you really, what's happening, what's going on. That's when you get to know the exact state of someone. So to me, that's where I come from. And because the background behind the picture, we were interviewing, mostly my pictures are, I'm always documenting someone's work. We were documenting at a school, how these children are doing reusable sanitary pads. They are students, but that is a project they are doing in school to help their fellow girls that are unable to buy themselves the high-end reusable sanitary pads. And this kid comes and stands next to us while we are doing this, but my us wondering, what is he thinking? Where is his mind? And he kept quiet. He's, when you're in those deep end villages, people come and start disturbing the crew, doing this, doing that, but this kid was silent. He was just quiet. He was just standing there and observing. So I couldn't pick what's on his mind.
Right.
So that's where I come from with all what's in the caption.
That's really a lot, and that's why I wanted to hear more a story about that picture. Because even me looking at it on your Instagram without being in the place, it speaks volumes, and the caption
Yeah.
adds to that.
Mm.
Also, you mentioned you when you take pictures, you're documenting something, and you've done some projects. I see a lot of like Christian artist Chimela 2516 has been on my podcast too, and I really love him. And I saw you took pictures of him, those Christian concerts. So, are you? Does that make no no no? I want to phrase this question the right way, but like you do what like are you a Christian? Like I'll pose it like that. I've like a better word to. I didn't want to bring it out like that, but like the
Yeah.
work you've
No,
done and some of
it's the right way to bring it up. It's the right way to bring it up. So I'm born and raised in a Christian family.
okay.
Uh, I'm still a Christian. I love God. I worship God, and not the small God. God, Jesus Christ. You know
Mm.
the Bible God. You know.
Yeah, that's
So documenting Christian events is something that is personal because it speaks straight to my heart, and to because me on my end, Instagram or what I post, it's not just about trying to sell the work I do. It's trying to put out what I feel is right for me. I'm sorry for the people who are going to be listening and watching this. I am sorry. I sometimes I don't care what you think. I need to be happy that this is the person you see, even when you meet them in person. So
right.
yes, we can go and photograph the secular events for the money, but for the name and putting my work out there, it, I find it easier to put out Christian even because of how they dress up. Like, I shouldn't waste someone's brain on how what we see the secular world dress up act is.
Hmm.
I don't want to be the reason to why one of the children drop out of school because one of my pictures inspired them and they were like, I need to, I can drop God on the side and then, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to be the reason to some people's bad choices, if I
Hmm.
can use that. So posting Christian content is because I'm a Christian, and I have to spread the name. I mean,
That is true. And
with all platforms I have access to, with
mhm.
the best art and gift that God has given me, which is photography, videography, I have to use the platform to spread the word. So that's why. Then maybe to just add more context to that is the people that, for example, Sam Chimera, Pompey from Zambia, those are like, man, those are big people that I look out for in music. Like they speak to me, they speak to me in music, and there's more teaching in their music. Like it's not shallow, it's deep. It's
Yeah.
deep music with context, with meaning, with a lot of teaching within the word and of course daily life, you know. So I get excited to post something that is positive to me, and I always think it would be positive to another person. So yeah.
That's a good take actually on that. And I was gonna say I'm a Christian myself. My dad is a pastor.
Mm,
And when you touched on like we go out and shoot secular work just for the money, I do like I host people who are not Christians on my podcast. Like I post just
yeah.
to
Mm,
because that's gonna take away who I am and what I know about God.
mm,
There's a lot
mm,
of lessons we can learn from each other, and also we can be the door to these people. But like instead of like
yeah.
pushing those
Yeah.
people away, you
Yeah.
can work with them, but it still doesn't affect who you are and what you represent. And I like the way
Yeah.
like even if I interview a secular person, I'm not gonna go out and promote like a wrong thing that they said on the podcast or something like, hey,
Yeah. True.
let's say if it's a devil wash fund, you interview them because they have some business that you want them to inspire, and then they come on the podcast and they promote their devil. I'm not gonna put that out, you know. I want
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I want you here to inspire another child on your
Yeah.
business
True.
career. And
Yeah.
me, I'm not gonna if the way you got there was like other ways, I don't want to hear that. Like I want you to promote the good part of that, you know, and that's something
Mm,
I like to share about. But yeah, I told you 30
mm.
minutes, and I think we're almost coming close to 30 minutes. I have a few questions I want to ask you, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
All right.
When you go for a shoot, do you take any essential items other than your camera and lenses? And what are those when you go out to shoot? You,
Essential.
yeah.
Ah, I think I'm essential, so I take myself number one.
Yeah.
But the essential things, I'm still struggling on that bit. But mostly, I have to eat, but
Yeah.
because I'm a bad eater, like I'm not so good at eating when it comes to work. So I can take one meal and that's for the day. If it's a
Right.
crazy, if it's a crazy day. Essential things, my God, what would that be? Because my camera, extra batteries, extra cards, fully charged laptop. What else is there? I don't know.
Fun.
Shoes. That's like something that is now uh, embedded in our system right now. It's
Yeah.
part of us. It's part of us. That, yeah, cash, like cash, hard
Yeah.
cash, because at some point you don't have where to use
Mobile money.
mobile banking. You don't have ATM cards around you, and we're talking about those projects where you're far away from town.
Hmm.
So cash, like hard paper money, that
Yeah.
someone believes that this is money, not your e-money. So
Yeah.
that is like the biggest. Of course, hankies. Oh my God, hankies. I meet photographers without hankies. I don't know how they function. And if you know you're out there, please start carrying a hanky.
Yeah.
I don't know if this comes into this question, but there are particular places, and I know many photographers or people will testify to this. There are people that will come on your set and they are in sandals,
Mm.
like sandals. Oh my God, no, that's we are laid back people, but please don't come to someone's event in sandals. I mean,
Umoja over yebo yebo.
both many things, even if there are these. And of course, now there's this trend of yobos with socks. I'm sorry if I'm being too traditional, but it doesn't make sense. That's
Right.
what that's my problem with fashion. Like, why?
Mm.
What's the problem with wearing shoes and just going to take the pictures and go home? But for the essential bits, it's mostly money, hankies, simple, detailed things that make sense.
So the other question is, who has influenced your work the most, or who's somebody you look up to that influenced your talent? I mean, the talent is within you, but whose work influenced your work?
Oh, that's going. The right answer may not speak right to most people. The right full answer may not speak right with many people. But what I can say, oh my God. So let me say this. Yes, I don't have a specific person like I pinpoint like A B C. No, like I look at so much work in my field, so many creatives, so many photographers, so many videographers, cinematographers that really do the work for me, and I want to be better or be in the same line. But I
Mhm.
can name a few people that have done work that I I, I I enjoy and I credit most. That is Jumba Martin. Jumba Martin is good.
Yeah.
I enjoy his work. Uh, then who else? Myself, I think. I compete with myself.
Right. That's always
I
good.
do compete. Yeah, I do compete with myself a lot because I compete to be better than the previous shoot,
Yeah.
trying to be unique. God, I'm not so good with names, but there is a photographer. I think he's German. He's
Hmm.
called Alan something. I'm not so good with names, but he's called Alan. Maybe I could share with you later in the inbox.
Hmm.
Alan, and of course the upcoming people that we've grown to see that have influenced us. Peter McNaughton. Uh, Jesus,
I
I'm
was
so
gonna
bad
I was
with
gonna ask you
names.
somebody. He might not be like somebody oh you look up to, or but what's your relationship with William? I know he hangs out with Nyeka a lot and takes pictures.
William disturbs my head. How are you such a very good doctor and you're such a very good photographer and I can only do one? How?
Yeah,
Sometimes I tell God he is not fair, but I mean, William, the beauty with William, I met him the same time I met Edwin.
yeah,
But the biggest highlight for me with William is his professions, like both a doctor and a photographer. Like, I mean, that's amazing for me. Like, it cuts in for me.
yeah. I have a question that I usually ask people at the end of the podcast, like and I'm gonna ask you, like, who would you like to recommend to be the next guest on my podcast? But before you answer that, and I'm not asking it right now, I'm just telling you a story. Nyaika recommended William to be on my podcast. So we've tried to get William on the podcast, but he said he's not good at talking. Like he doesn't want to talk in the public. But I really want to have him on the podcast. So just ask him about the same thing you just talked about. Like how do you be such a good
Yeah.
doctor and then you do photography? That would be cool to have him on the podcast.
You need to have him. You need to have him there.
Yeah, I really
You
want
need to
to.
have him there. But I would recommend two people.
Mhm.
Oh no, three people. Sorry, I have three people. Number one, I have someone I look up to. I don't know if you've interviewed him before. That is Jumba Martin.
Okay. No, I've not.
Uh, then there is one of my close friends. That's Watanda Ambrose. Watanda Ambrose, we've grown together in terms of this field from, learning to be better, all those things. And then I would also want Esther Mbabazi.
Okay.
She's good. She's a very good female photographer. Yeah,
Let's
those are the three people. Those are the names that would come. I have like a whole list. But
yeah.
those are the three people I could recommend.
It's really cool to just interview photographers because it was a passion for me. I really liked it and I love good pictures. I love people who take pictures and just to dig into their brains to learn or listen to them speak. So yeah, it would be cool to have those on on the podcast. I've not interviewed a female photographer, so that would be cool to have them too on here. But the last two questions I want to ask you, one thing, what's a
Mm.
life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Life lesson. Mm. So my life lesson is more inclined to Christ. Uh, I've seen, I've been in difficult places, and I've seen God come through for me. Like, it's not an exaggerated thing that every Christian says that, trust in Him and everything. But to be honest, man, we travel to difficult places, honestly, to get stories, to document, to make money. We've been to places, and honestly, almost every trip I ask God, how are we back to Kampala? How are we back home?
Right.
And the thing is, trusting in God and having Him pave your path. I mean, because yes, you asked a question of who inspires me. It's hard because for me, when you put all that trust in a human being to kind of pave your path, it's complicated. You're traveling two journeys in one, traveling your journey and someone's journey in one, and that is hard. So I most times learn from them, but mostly like look up to God and have Him do the rest. Like,
Yeah.
he he does the work. Like, honestly, He makes work so easy for me. Like, knowing that this guy has your back, is going to provide, is going to give you the right words to say when they need to go out. So to me, the life lesson is continuing to trust in God, and there is no such thing that there is no God.
I love it when people, and I've said this on the podcast before, when somebody's unashamed of their faith and just on like say it out and not like beat around the bush. You're like, yeah, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, and this is who has made me who I am, you know. Because when we get to some places in our lives, then we tend to divert our lives from God who brought us from where we're at. Wafuna maka sente, hey, no vima no
Mm,
like
mm,
it's not even money, but like you get fame, you become famous, you're like everybody knows you, you
yeah,
get
true.
a job, your Instagram is always full of like, hey, you do great. Or you have a your podcast is a winning. You won an award on a podcast. Like everybody's talking about the kind
Mm,
of talk show, bichi bichi. But like when you
mm,
still know that God got you from wherever He got you, it's big, and I appreciate that you're able to still
mm,
see that. And the final question is, what
mm.
gets you excited about life?
Now that question, I don't know if I will interpret it right. But what excites me about life is, when actually I was sharing this with my colleague Ambrose recently, who headed to some shoot. I told him that, can you imagine, we go to way more remote areas and we find life happening. Like, people wake up,
Hmm.
have a choice of clothes, take breakfast, have activities planned for that day, and they go back home. Hmm?
Right.
Still, in what we know best, the city, there's life happening.
Hmm.
Like, it's still in the same city, there are slums. Life is still happening. Everyone is going about with life.
Hmm.
To me, it just disturbs my head on how God designed these things.
Right.
Like, you're not there, but still life is happening. When you go there, you find life is happening. You only concentrate in what's just in front of you, what's in your neighborhood,
Hmm.
where the places you use, going home, going to work. But even way beyond from where you stay, there's life happening. So what excites me is life continues happening with or without you.
Without.
Like,
Yeah.
you have no say in stopping this life from
Mhm.
continuing. So that excites me and keeps me in check of not, swelling up and, I got this, I got this. No, no, no.
Mhm.
Without you, people are still living, whether they are sleeping hungry, sleeping on air, full stomachs, dressing in posh clothes, or driving this. Even the person with no shoes is still living. That is still life. The circumstances are different, but it's still life at the bottom line. That excites me.
And when you before you answer the question, when you say you don't know if you're gonna interpret it the right way, for me, like this is perfect. Like that's a perfect answer, and like that's something that will get me thinking like really hard. And you just mentioned it, and I'm like, whoa, I've never actually even thought about that because when you go to the deep village, like you said, life is happening. Whether you were there, whether you're not, like people are gonna leave.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing, when you were talking about that, when you go to the villages and like people are happy. And when I moved to the United
Yeah.
States, I was like, I saw the kids who grew up here, the life here. I'm like, how were we so happy in Uganda? Like you feel like we didn't have
I
much,
know.
but we were happy.
Mm,
Like you see the life here, and somebody doesn't have this, and they feel like the life is gonna end. I'm sorry to drag this going on, but like
it's okay.
we had a few like winter storms here, and like when something
Mm.
terrible is gonna happen, people run to the stores and just buy all the food in the store. Like when we had COVID, people ran to the store and buy all the toilet paper. I don't know if you guys had the news, like in the US, we ran out of toilet paper, and you think you're like, so in Uganda, that's not the first thing somebody would think about. Toilet
I
paper.
mean, yeah, toilet paper is the last thing to think about.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But that's like
Interesting.
things like that. They get you like to think
Mm,
about life. But yeah, Moses, I really enjoyed talking to you, and I apologize about the miss of the time, but I'm glad we're able to do this. This is why I like to sit down
mm,
and share a word or two with the listeners, my listeners, and what you do, and we get to connect and support each other. So thanks very
Mm.
much. I'll go on editing this and see as soon as I can get it, put it out for the listeners to listen to it. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick picture here, and then I'll take just a quick. Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.